There is a temptation, in times of great difficulty, to believe that we have been forgotten. The weight of suffering, like an unseen hand pressing upon the soul, makes us question whether we walk alone. We cry out, yet silence answers. We seek relief, but the storm rages on. And so we ask, has God seen? Does he care? The truth is this: your struggles have not gone unnoticed. Not a single tear has fallen in vain. The one who fashioned the stars has numbered every trial, every burden upon your shoulders. And though you may not perceive him in the storm, he is there. The fire that refines gold is not meant to destroy it, but to purify it. So, too, your struggles are not punishments, but preparation. Consider the great figures of history. Those who changed the world did not live easy lives. They were refined by hardship, strengthened through adversity, and taught endurance through suffering. Their pain was not meaningless; rather, it shaped them into vessels capable of great things. Faith is not the absence of struggle, but the conviction that there is meaning within it. A ship is not tested in still waters, but in tempests. A soldier does not prove his strength in peace, but in battle. And so, the trials you face today are not signs of defeat, but evidence that you are being prepared for something greater. The road is long, but you are not alone. The same God who parted the seas, who raised the broken from the dust, who spoke life into the void, he is with you. He sees what you cannot. And when the night seems unending, when your strength is failing, remember this: dawn is near. Victory is not an illusion, it is a certainty. Keep going. Keep believing. You were not meant to perish in this storm. You were meant to overcome. And when you reach the other side, you will look back and see every step, every hardship, every tear was leading you to something far greater than you could have imagined. Suffering, though painful, is not without meaning. It is often seen as an unwelcome visitor, a shadow that darkens our path, yet its presence serves a profound purpose. Life's greatest lessons, the depths of wisdom, and the formation of character are often forged in the crucible of adversity. Comfort does not refine, ease does not strengthen. It is in the moments of trial that the soul is stretched, reshaped, and prepared for greater things. A seed buried in the soil may seem lost, abandoned in darkness, but that very darkness is where its transformation begins. The weight of the earth pressing upon it is not meant to crush it, but to urge it to grow. Without the struggle to break through the soil, the seed would remain dormant, never reaching the sunlight. So, too, human struggles are not meant to destroy, but to awaken something deeper within. There is no greatness without growth, and there is no growth without resistance. History bears witness to this truth. Every remarkable figure, from the prophets of old to the pioneers of faith, has walked through the valley of hardship before reaching their purpose. Joseph, cast into a pit by his own brothers, spent years as a slave and a prisoner before he became a ruler. His suffering was not a diversion from his destiny. It was the path to it. The years of loneliness, betrayal, and injustice were not wasted, but were shaping him into the leader he was meant to be. Without those trials, he would have lacked the wisdom, resilience, and faith needed for the task ahead. Gold is only purified when it passes through fire. If left untouched, it remains mixed with impurities, dull and unrefined. The fire does not lessen its value, rather, it reveals its true worth. In the same way, suffering refines the soul, burning away pride, selfishness, and complacency, revealing a depth of character that ease never could. Many seek strength, but few embrace the process that builds it. It is not the avoidance of difficulty that makes a person strong, but their endurance through it. Struggles do not merely test a person, they transform them. Patience is not learned in moments of abundance, but in seasons of waiting. Compassion is not born from a life untouched by pain, but from walking through suffering and emerging with an understanding heart. The deepest wisdom is not gained from books alone, but from the experience of navigating storms and finding that one is still standing when they pass. There is an illusion that those who suffer must have done something wrong, that hardship is a sign of divine disfavor. Yet, even the most righteous have faced trials. The greatest figures of faith were not spared from pain, but were often given the heaviest burdens because they were being prepared for something greater. A soldier is not sent into battle without training, nor is a leader formed without challenges that teach them to lead. Every difficulty is a lesson, a refinement, a preparation for what is to come. Pain also has the power to shift perspective. It removes illusions, revealing what truly matters. A person who has faced loss understands the value of presence. One who has endured struggle learns to appreciate small victories. Suffering strips away distractions, forcing the soul to focus on what is essential. It is not a punishment, but a teacher, one that, though harsh, is deeply effective. Even nature testifies to this principle. The strongest trees are not those that grow in sheltered valleys, but those that stand against the wind, their roots deepened by the struggle to remain upright. A butterfly, if helped out of its cocoon, will never develop the strength to fly. Its struggle to break free is what gives its wings the power they need. If hardship were removed entirely, growth would be stunted, potential unrealized. People often ask why suffering exists, why hardships come upon those who seek to do right. Yet, the absence of suffering would not create strength, nor would it foster true faith. It is easy to trust when all is well, but the depth of belief is tested when circumstances are difficult. A faith that endures hardship is one that is unshakable. The trials of life, though painful, are not purposeless. They are shaping, refining, and preparing individuals for something greater than they can see in the moment. Suffering is not a sign of failure, but a sign of formation. It is not the end of the story, but a necessary chapter. Those who endure do not come out the same. They come out stronger, wiser, and ready for the purpose they were meant to fulfill. There is a moment in every trial when silence feels unbearable. The weight of suffering presses down, and the absence of immediate relief tempts the heart to doubt. The question arises, where is God in all this? Has he turned away? If he truly sees, why does he not intervene? Yet, the greatest error is mistaking silence for absence. God's presence is not dictated by human perception. It is constant, even when unseen. A child lost in the dark may believe they are alone, but the watchful eye of a loving parent never leaves them. Their cries do not go unheard. Their steps are not unobserved. The Father does not abandon, but allows them to grow in trust, to learn that their security is not in what they see, but in who watches over them. So it is with divine presence. It is not always felt, but it is never withdrawn. Scripture is filled with moments where God's people felt forsaken, only to later realize he had been working behind the scenes all along. Consider the Israelites at the edge of the Red Sea, trapped between an army and an impassable body of water. Fear overtook them. Escape seemed impossible. They cried out, believing destruction was near. The very place of their despair became the site of their greatest deliverance. The waters parted, revealing that God had been present all along, preparing a way where there seemed to be none. God's presence does not mean the absence of struggle. The three men in the fiery furnace were not spared from entering it, but they were not alone in it. A fourth figure walked with them, ensuring that not even the flames could harm them. Daniel was not kept from the lion's den, but God's presence shut the mouths of the beasts. The Apostle Paul was not spared from imprisonment, but even within chains, he declared that God's presence sustained him. The evidence of divine nearness is not the removal of hardship, but the strength to endure it. Trials reveal what comfort often hides our complete dependence on God. When all is well, it is easy to trust in one's own strength, to move through life with little thought of divine sustenance. But when hardship strips away security, when human effort is exhausted, it is then that God's presence becomes the only anchor. The storms of life are not proof of abandonment. They are invitations to lean into the one who never wavers. A sculptor does not leave a masterpiece half-formed. Every strike of the chisel may seem harsh, every removal of stone unnecessary, but the artist sees what the unformed piece cannot. Each cut is intentional, each detail shaping the final vision. Likewise, God's presence in trials is not passive, it is purposeful. He is not distant, but near, molding, refining, and shaping through every difficulty. What may seem like abandonment is often the careful work of a master at his craft. Faith often grows strongest in the absence of visible assurance. A tree does not develop deep roots in calm conditions, but when winds challenge its stability. A sailor does not learn to navigate by sailing smooth waters, but by facing storms. Likewise, believers do not cultivate unshakable trust when all is easy, but when their faith is tested and found unbroken. God's presence is not always proven in the ease of the journey, but in the endurance he grants to complete it. Even Christ himself, in his greatest moment of suffering, cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And yet, God had not forsaken him. The agony of the moment did not negate the certainty of divine presence. The resurrection was already written into the story. Victory was already assured. If even the Son of God experienced the weight of suffering before the triumph, how much more should his followers expect the same? The pain of the present moment is not the end of the story. The presence of God in trials is often recognized in hindsight. Looking back, one sees how strength was given when weakness seemed overwhelming. They see how certain doors closed to lead them to something greater. They see how prayers that seemed unanswered were, in fact, answered in ways far beyond their understanding. The journey may not always make sense in the moment, but faith assures that it is guided by a hand that never lets go. God does not watch suffering from a distance. he steps into it. He walks with the weary, strengthens the weak, and carries those who cannot stand on their own. The absence of immediate relief is not the absence of divine love. It is in the fire, in the storm, in the depths of trial that his presence is most at work. It may not always be seen, but it is never absent. Faith is often misunderstood as certainty, a belief that never wavers, a confidence that sees the future with perfect clarity. Yet, true faith is not the absence of doubt, but the willingness to trust even when the path is unclear. It is the decision to walk forward despite unanswered questions, despite fears that whisper of failure. Faith is not the elimination of uncertainty. It is the choice to believe in the midst of it. A child learning to walk does not see the hands waiting to catch them, yet they take steps forward, trusting in something beyond their sight. A farmer does not see the harvest at the time of planting, but he sows in faith, believing that the unseen work beneath the soil will bear fruit in time. A traveler in a storm does not see the sun, but he knows it still exists beyond the clouds. Faith operates in the same way. It does not demand immediate evidence, but it trusts in what is yet to be revealed. Throughout history, the greatest demonstrations of faith have come not from those who had all the answers, but from those who trusted in the midst of uncertainty. Abraham was called to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going, yet he walked forward, believing in a promise he could not yet see. Noah built an ark when there was no sign of rain, trusting in a warning that seemed improbable. The Israelites stepped into the Red Sea before the waters parted, moving forward before the miracle occurred. Faith does not wait for proof before acting. It moves despite the lack of visible assurance. Faith is not a passive belief, but an active trust. It is not merely agreeing with truth, but living in a way that reflects confidence in that truth. A person who claims to believe in the strength of a bridge but refuses to walk across it does not truly trust it. In the same way, faith is not proven by words alone but by action. It is stepping out of the boat like Peter, even when the waves threaten to overwhelm. It is standing before giants like David, trusting in victory before it is won. It is believing in the unseen hand of God, even when circumstances suggest otherwise. The greatest test of faith often comes in moments of silence. When prayers seem unanswered, when struggles persist, when nothing changes despite persistent belief, the temptation arises to give up, to assume that faith has failed. Yet, faith is not measured by immediate results, but by endurance. It is not faith if it only lasts when things go well. True faith is proven when it remains steadfast in difficulty. The seed planted does not break through the ground instantly. Growth happens in the hidden places long before it is visible. Many give up too soon, unaware that what they have been waiting for is just beneath the surface. Faith is not about controlling the outcome, but about trusting the one who holds the outcome. It does not require full understanding. It requires surrender. The strongest faith does not say, "I know exactly how this will end," but rather, "I trust that God is in control, even if I do not understand." A ship on the ocean does not see the shore at all times, but the compass guides it in the right direction. Faith is that compass. It may not provide a map of every step, but it keeps the soul aligned with the ultimate destination. Faith also requires patience. Many desire immediate answers, instant relief, quick solutions, but faith is often tested in waiting. Joseph had a vision of his future, but spent years as a slave and prisoner before it was fulfilled. Moses knew the promise of deliverance, but wandered the wilderness before leading his people to the promised land. The disciples believed in the Messiah, but had to endure the silence of the tomb before witnessing the resurrection. Faith that is not willing to wait is not faith, it is mere wishful thinking. True faith holds on, even in delay, trusting that what God has promised will come to pass. Faith is strengthened through trials, not weakened by them. A muscle only grows when it is tested by resistance. A tree only develops deep roots when it faces the wind. A diamond is only formed under great pressure. In the same way, faith deepens when it is challenged, when it is stretched beyond comfort, when it is forced to rely on God alone. The difficulties of life are not signs that faith is failing, but opportunities for it to grow. Faith does not mean avoiding hardship. It means trusting that hardship serves a purpose. It is not about never feeling afraid, but about choosing to move forward despite fear. It is not about having every question answered, but about resting in the assurance that God is sovereign. Faith is the willingness to keep going, to trust, to believe not because the outcome is seen, but because the one who holds it is faithful. Hope is not a fleeting emotion, nor is it mere optimism. It is a steady anchor, an unshakable assurance that even in the darkest moments, light still exists beyond the horizon. It does not deny present struggles, but looks beyond them, refusing to be defined by temporary hardships. Hope is what keeps a weary traveler moving forward, even when the road is long and difficult. Endurance is the companion of hope. It is the ability to withstand adversity, to press on despite obstacles, to remain steadfast even when the journey feels endless. It does not mean the absence of struggle, but the refusal to surrender to it. A runner in a marathon does not stop at the first sign of fatigue. He pushes through, knowing that every step brings him closer to the finish line. So, too, endurance is the commitment to keep going, knowing that victory is near. Hardship is not evidence that hope is misplaced. It is often the very soil in which true hope takes root. A tree that grows in perfect conditions may appear strong, but it is the one that endures storms, winds, and droughts that develops the deepest root. Endurance does not come from ease, but from struggle. It is in the testing that true strength is formed. History is filled with examples of those who endured hardship yet emerged victorious. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment before stepping into his destiny. David faced years of persecution before wearing the crown that was promised to him. Job lost everything, yet through his suffering, his faith and hope were refined. None of these individuals saw the full picture in the midst of their trials, yet they pressed on, believing that their pain was not the end of their story. Waiting is one of the greatest tests of endurance. The human heart longs for quick resolutions, immediate answers, and instant relief. Yet, the most valuable things in life take time to develop. A seed does not bear fruit overnight. It must go through seasons of growth, of waiting, of unseen transformation beneath the surface. The process cannot be rushed. Those who endure the waiting are those who eventually see the harvest. Endurance is not about surviving with bitterness, but growing through the struggle. Many endure suffering but become hardened by it, allowing their hearts to grow cold, their trust in God to waver. True endurance is not just about lasting through the storm, but coming out stronger, wiser, and more refined. The fire that melts some hardens others, and it is endurance that determines the difference. Hope does not ignore suffering. It acknowledges it but refuses to be defeated by it. The Apostle Paul, who endured shipwrecks, beatings, imprisonment, and rejection, wrote that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. This is the paradox of faith. Suffering, when met with endurance, does not destroy hope but strengthens it. It refines perspective, teaching that hardships are temporary, but God's promises remain. The greatest victories often come just after the hardest battles. Many give up too soon, abandoning their pursuit when relief seems out of reach. Yet history shows that breakthroughs often happen in the moments when quitting seems most tempting. A miner who stops digging just before striking gold, a traveler who turns back just before reaching shelter, a believer who gives up just before seeing God's hand at work. These are tragedies of endurance cut short. The ones who press on, even when exhausted, are the ones who eventually see victory. Endurance is not self-sufficiency. It is dependence on God. Human strength has limits, and there comes a point when one's own ability to persevere runs out. But it is in those moments of weakness that divine strength is revealed. When the heart is heavy, when the road seems too long, when hope appears distant, it is then that God provides the strength to continue. Those who endure do not do so by their own power, but by leaning on the one who never fails. There is a temptation to measure life by present circumstances, to believe that suffering will last forever. But just as night gives way to morning, winter to spring, storms to calm skies, so too hardships are temporary. Hope is the knowledge that seasons change, that pain will not have the final word, that endurance leads not to endless suffering, but to victory. Hope is not fragile, and endurance is not passive. They are forces that drive people forward when everything in them wants to stop. The trials of life are not meaningless. They shape, refine, and prepare for something greater. The ones who hold on to hope, who endure when all seems lost, are the ones who eventually stand in triumph, looking back and seeing that every step, every struggle, every tear was leading them to something far greater than they ever imagined.